Okay everyone, today is Indie Spotlight number 3, and honestly this has already become by far my favorite series the channel has ever done, frankly. It seems to be the perfect way to balance out the realistically negative coverage of sliding AAA trends, and to be sure there are standouts in the AAA space, but when you start to dig around and explore some of the lesser known, smaller budget titles out there that release every single day, you can find some truly wonderful projects. Not every game and developer has millions of dollars to spend on a single streamer to brute force their way to the #1 spot on Twitch. Many games are born purely from the passion of a creative few, and rely on positive word of mouth in order to grow or get noticed. Mordhau, the third entry in this series, appears to be such a game, and also has the added element of being the most skill-based game I have personally ever played in my entire life. The Indie Spotlight series is also something I would like to evolve over time, so with this next one I've also reached out and been able to have a bit of a Q&A or question and answer with the development team to better round out the coverage. Also, after playing quite a bit of the game, I found that I was mostly facing off against very seasoned melee combat game veterans and other developers who were exceptionally skilled, and as a result, well, a lot of this kept happening. Now compare that to this. So in order to really show you how dynamic the game can be, I'll mostly be using spectated footage of various other more skilled players. I did get my legs under me after quite a few hours, and it was a thrilling and motivational experience seeing my abilities improve in real time simply as a function of mastering the basic combat controls. But in the hands of a truly skilled and practiced player, the game takes on an entirely new personality that is unbelievably dynamic, so I will mostly be showing spectated footage. When you start up Mordhau, you are instantly hit with the atmosphere. The game is a brutal medieval combat simulator and makes no mistake at all about its intention to be as skill-based as possible. When I was able to ask the game's development team a number of questions, one of those questions was about how accessible, casualized, and or hardcore the game was, and where their focus truly centers. An answer from one of the game's artists, Grador, resonated strongly, and I quote, "Mordhau is a hardcore game. It's hard, unforgiving, visceral, and satisfying. New players need to be on a no pain, no gain mindset if they want to improve and solidify their skills." End quote. This had me interested on a personal level since I firmly believe the days of truly skill-based game design are rapidly disappearing. All too often now, games have a compressed skill gap with a profit-driven motivation behind it. Mordhau does not follow that track. He went on to say, quote, "At the same time, we offer an in-depth tutorial, skill-based matchmaking, massive siege battles, and cooperative modes for players to relax and have some fun with the game without the constant tension of competition." End quote. Now, from the experience I had thus far, I was only able to play a couple of different modes, one of which was actually a Battle Royale, which is where the majority of footage was gathered, and another an Endless Horde mode. So considering his answer, plus my personal experience, the game has a wide variety of different modes and battle types that really do give a selection of activities broad enough to overcome the potential issue of player discouragement based on lack of experience, which might be present if the game only focused on the highly skill-based direct player versus player activities. Another question I very deliberately asked was about the game's mission. I highlighted that the broader gaming industry right now is dominated by shareholder bottom lines and has a fiscal motivation with arbitrary deadlines that do not revolve around what is best for the game itself and subsequently best for the players. The game's lead developer Marox, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly, had this to say. Quote, Mordhau is a project driven entirely by our own passion for the genre and the medium. We have no publishers, no investors, nor are we otherwise bound to do anything other than what we feel like doing. This sort of approach allows us to take risks, to experiment, and to enjoy the process. We're blessed by the fact that, at least for now, it seems that what we feel like doing is also what people like playing. This answer is mirrored across all of the development team who responded as well. The game's community manager, Jax, answered, Mordhau is first and foremost a passion project. The team has an insane amount of hours played in Melee games, and we have a shared vision of how good combat should feel and play. I think this really sets us apart from a lot of the designed for shareholder games that might look good at first glance, but lack any soul or identity when it comes to the gameplay itself. That's an answer that seems increasingly potent right now as well, seeing as some of the recent games that have hit the scene at a higher level have truly been lacking a soul, and are used as a vehicle for fiscally motivated bottom line enhancing tactics, which ultimately lead to a detrimental end user result. Mordhau operating first and foremost as a passion project, built with the goal of having the best melee combat in the genre and delivering the most polished experience possible to the player base, rather than being a time-locked quarterly earnings prop, builds a sense of confidence and admiration that just isn't fostered as much right now in the AAA space. There are a lot of reasons I initially decided that Mordhau was worth doing a spotlight video, but one standout moment was when I was watching an informative video that the team put out regarding mounted combat, something they did not originally intend to even add based on the Q&A I did. The video discussed some of the mechanics and then emphasized a momentum-based damage system that held positives and negatives to utilizing a mount in hectic combat situations. This was one of the first moments where I really started to tune in, since the concept of momentum-based damage is easily overlooked in many other games that feature the combat style, but when you really think about it, it makes total sense. The idea that riding faster increases the kinetic energy of both incoming and outgoing weapon swings and hits seems obvious, but so many games ignore it. Mordhau, however, is different, and takes a painstakingly detailed approach to realistic combat while offering a freedom of control that puts the user square in control of their own fate. The game does not have a crutch system at all. There is no aim assist, no hidden modification of swings to make sure they hit when they did not in fact connect with the target, and no artificially inflated hitbox to give the illusion of superior player skill. The game plays in such a way where when you actually hit something, it is devastating, and when you miss, you are very, very exposed. The collision systems are very well polished, and in fact, polish is something that the development team mentioned quite a few times as the biggest struggle that they have faced. One response stated that the largest hurdle to overcome is the team's own perfectionism, polishing the existing content and then adding new systems bit by bit to keep on fine-tuning. Reality keeps them in check at times, but that kind of aspiration for perfect melee combat, it's rare and it shows. I was not able to fully explore the cosmetic and class systems in Mordhau, but there is clearly depth there, a lot of depth. The game avoids the broader fantasy trope and focuses in on more historically accurate concepts, and to some that could be a mark against it. A game like Kingdom Come Deliverance at one point came under fire because of the assumption that true medieval combat accuracy is likely boring. It would be like Skyrim but without the dragons or the magic or anything interesting, but when done right, it certainly isn't boring. I remember as a child being obsessed with knights and castles and armor. Mordhau brings that atmosphere to a truly skill-based digital PC game environment and really builds up a sense of unspoken power. When fighting an enemy in full plate armor who swirls his sword before the encounter with a provocative shout, something that requires dexterity with the controls to pull off in quick succession, I might add, you really feel a sense of, damn, well, here we go, Clash of the Titans. Or alternatively, in my case, uh-oh, here's a fucking knight. What the hell am I gonna do now? I legitimately felt like a peasant for my first many hours. Not in a way that made me unhappy, but in a dauntingly motivational way, whereas I mastered fist combat, then learned some moves with a one-handed sword, and later started getting kills with a halberd and bastard sword, it gave a sense of satisfaction I really don't feel in many other games. It's truly rare. The development team is small, very small, 11 people in fact, working remotely, but from the quality of combat and design, it certainly isn't obvious that it is that small. When asked about the game's mission, the community manager Jax replied that the goal was to make a game that they themselves, the developers, would actually want to keep playing and enjoying. He also stated that he has some 1,200 or so hours in it as well, and this stands as proof to me that the game is being made by skilled gamers for skilled gamers, but without any sort of exclusivity. It is a playground where practice, reflexes, and smart plays have all the potential in the world, and any player can climb the ladder of skilled progression as quickly or as slowly as they wish. It's entirely in their own hands. Mordhau isn't tied to random number generation drop chance or specifically god-rolled pieces of gear. Getting better isn't a function of just flick aiming with the mouse and landing bullets. It's a composite product of learning weapon range, swing speed, how to fake attacks, how to convert attacks, when to convert, at what time, against what weapon, to circumvent a guard, and so much more. I can't help but think of For Honor from Ubisoft, except infinitely expanded to include attacks from any angle, with more realistic movement and a greater emphasis on player control rather than specific combo spam. The game is currently unreleased and PC exclusive. That's not really a great thing. A lot of people on console will want to play it and will not currently be able to. It's slated for a 2019 release date, and from what I have played, it will be ready. That is to say, finished, polished, functional, and prepared for a traditional, here is a working, well-crafted product release. Something that shouldn't be rare, but sadly sort of is nowadays. A bit of honesty though, I actually don't think it will sell very well, at least not at first. This is in no way a reflection on the quality of the game. It is an assumption based on how casualized the broader gaming market has become in recent years. A lot of players will play Mordhau and, well, they're going to get crushed, and many will quit, or refund, or move on without taking the time to really push through and learn how to fight. They will never get to the point of pulling off a perfect feint and converting their next strike at the last second from a slash to a stab in order to skewer their opponent. I would urge anyone out there with any interest in the game at all to embrace the brutality of the combat, to accept the fact that it is a true climb from unskilled peasant to master swordsman, and to understand that the sense of gratification for it is clearly worth it. The game has a wide range of activities, items, and much more that I have not even been able to fully explore yet. And it may seem odd doing a video like this for a game that isn't publicly available as of right now, but I would recommend anyone with even a passing interest to bookmark the game, write it down somewhere, and keep track of it, because it certainly deserves to be watched and ultimately tried out. At the very least, certainly for any fans of medieval combat games. Lastly, I want to say thank you to the development team who took the time to answer my questions. I hardly included any actual answers, and there were many more that I could have highlighted that were fantastic answers actually, but the overall picture helped me craft a video of not only what the product itself is, but what it is intended to be, with an understanding of why it deserves to be talked about and what makes it truly special and unique. I want to expand on this series. It feels like the perfect way to offset some of the more combative coverage of major titles that I do, but I also don't want to fix a schedule to it because limiting the freedom of coverage feels like the wrong step to take. If you have recommendations for games I should try out or perhaps cover, please leave them down below in the comment section, and I'll try to take a look and perhaps reach out to the developers themselves. That's it for this spotlight of Mordhau though. Keep track of it. It's a deserving title, but that will wrap it up. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. We have various different gaming communities, merchandise, and other things as well. But I'll cut it there and stop rambling. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.